Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. Happy Monday. I hope you guys had an amazing weekend, and thank you so much for tuning in with me today on this Monday morning. So today we're gonna start with our challenge number 5. But for those of you who haven't joined the challenges yet, let me show you how you can do so by taking part of the challenge from our amazing and useful landing page. So if you want to go ahead and go on behance.net/challenge/Photoshop, you'll be able to see from this amazing landing page that there is a very big blue button here on the top. That's all you have to do in order to join the challenge. Click the big blue button and you're gonna be able to take part every single day to our amazing Photoshop challenges. But let me say hi to the chat, see who is joining us today. Hi Jennifer, hi William, Sean, Marisa, you can hear me. Yay! We worked very hard during the weekend making sure the audio was back on, and I'm very glad to see that you guys can hear me today. Hi Hannah, hi Mia, Valda here, Suzanne, Anna, thank you so much for being with me in this Monday morning. Again, let me know what you've been up to during this weekend. I'm very curious. As I said, I was working on my laptop, making sure that all the audio and everything was back to normal in order to learn and sharpen our skill together in Photoshop, but making sure that you guys can hear me. So let's go back into our super fantabulous landing page. As I say, this is a very amazing space because it's rich of information. First of all, how to join the chat, the big blue button that we just mentioned a moment ago. Mine says chat with the community because I've already joined. I already joined and took part to the challenges. And then what we need to know about this landing page is that if we scroll down, you can get access to starter file and videos from the previous challenges. So if you need to catch up, don't worry, you can do so by simply watching the videos here. Now looks like I have to refresh my page in order to unveil challenge number 5. Today we're gonna be talking on clipping masks and how they affect our mockup in order to make it more realistic. So make sure that you click on get started in order to download your starter file and join me throughout this challenge in a second. Before we start though, I just want to make sure that for those of you who perhaps do not have Photoshop yet and you're just here to start to see and learn how to use Photoshop, you can just download a free trial by clicking on download Photoshop here at the very bottom of our landing page. And if one challenge is not enough for you, you have plenty of past challenges here from my fellow streamer like Voodoo Val and Catherine and Asus. Here you have all their challenges that you can use in order to create amazing portfolio pieces or simply to exercise your skill into Photoshop. Let's see if we have any question in the chat. Anna, oh, you guys just keep saying hello. That's absolutely fine. It's Monday morning. I hope you guys are doing well. Let me know where are you chatting from, and it will be nice to see if you have any question as well. Remember, if you go on behance.net/live, I can read your messages live, so I'll be happy to answer to all of your questions. But let's get started. Let's dive into Photoshop. Perhaps the last thing that I have to remind you before we actually started on the project, I just see here on my big blue button, it says chat with the community. This is something very important to remember. In fact, if we click here, or in this other link where you say join the community chat, we are going to be transported in this amazing world of Discord. Discord is our community chat where you can get to know and get feedback from an international community of designers. And make sure to go and click on this link if the other don't work. If you're just maybe from mobile and you want to join, there is also an app that you can download, and this above me is the link that you can use. But just to introduce you the way that Discord works, we have a current challenge channel in which you can post new work and you can post your work and your challenges in order to get feedback either from other designers that are present or professional, or our amazing mentor. Here we have Sam and team. So feel free also to ask question into the ask question channel, and you can also show your portfolio and talk about design into the design other or portfolio review channel. This is an amazing space where you can showcase your work and learn more by looking at other people's work. So this is a very good habit to learn when you're starting with design, because again, as I always say, this is a safe space. We are here to have fun, we're here to blow on our creative minds, and we're here to sharpen our skills in Photoshop. So let's get started with today's challenge, which is challenge number 5. Now, while I open my file, I want to remind you guys that if you have not taken part of the previous challenges, it doesn't matter. You can start from this one and then slowly catch up in your own time. So what I'm gonna do now is go into my desktop. Hopefully you have downloaded your starter file. I'm gonna start with this magazine page file that you'll find in your folder. I'm gonna click and drag it into my Photoshop app. And you can see that this is the file that we're gonna be working on. We're gonna work into mock-upping our advert created in challenge number 4 in this magazine. Don't worry if you have not done challenge number 4, I provided my finals for you to use. So let's see if there is any other question. I think you're ready to go. And Perfect. Ready to go, ready to start. Again, thank you so much for joining me. Hi, Munir. Hi, Lessa. Nice to see you here. Hi, Noor. But let's get started. So very first thing that I want to do is to make sure that I have all my assets into Photoshop. We know that that's the beauty of the libraries. So first thing I'm going to do is to create a new library by clicking here on this down pointing arrow and create a new library. And I'm going to call her advert mockup. And once I do so, I'm going to click on create, and I'm going to go back into my desktop, and whatever is your folder that you have downloaded our startup file, I'm going to select all of these files, go back into Photoshop, and simply click, drag, and drop them into our library. This will ensure us to work within Photoshop. We have all our assets there. We do need to leave the app thanks to the amazing environment of the cloud that allow us to pick all our files and keep them together into our amazing CC libraries. So in order to get started here, the first thing that I'm going to do is to trigger the rulers. If you have it already, we're going to see the way that they look like. If you do not have any rulers, you have two options. Either press Command R in order to have them appearing in your working space, or you can go from your window. Let me see. I've always using the shortcut. As you guys have named me, I am the shortcut MacGyver, so I use shortcut all the time. And in order to see them, is no windows, is actually view. Here it is. We need to make sure that we have rulers checked in order to see the ruler. Otherwise, if you want to be a shortcut MacGyver like myself, Command R, quick and easy way to make your ruler appear. So the reason why I have the ruler is because I want to make sure that I go very precisely in checking this little corner of our page, which is going to become our mockup. And as you can see, I advise you to zoom in when you do so, because you really want to be precise in order then to snap our mockup into the magazine page. So I'm going to zoom in and zoom out. And as you can see, if I drag from the side, we're going to have a vertical guide. And if I drag from the top, we're going to have an horizontal line. If for whatever reason you prefer just working with one of the sides, or perhaps you just by mistake go back and click on your left side in order to go from the top, don't worry. If you click option, you'll be able to reverse the direction of your rulers. And here we go. We have our horizontal and vertical line set up correctly, even if we just go from one single side. Perfect. So the next thing that we're going to do in order to make sure that we keep this flattened perspective and aspect ratio of our magazine, we're going to introduce a new tool which is called Perspective Crop. You can find that nested under our crop tool. And I'm going to zoom in so you can actually see. I'm going to just simply go ahead and hold on my crop tool and select the Perspective Crop tool here. I'm gonna hand zoom to make sure that we can see our entire image. And all I have to do here is to click on this point that we created before with our amazing guides in order to select the area that we're gonna use as a mockup. Remember, we're using the perspective crop tool because we want to make sure that we grab the area that is in a perspective so that has a different aspect ratio and is slightly distorted. Once you're happy with your selection, all you have to do is to click into this check mark or press return. And as you can see, we have the selection of the area in which we're gonna put our advert to mockup. I'm just gonna go into the chat to see if there is any question here. I can see Alberto and Jan and Sig, Nancy, so many familiar faces. Thank you so much for being back with me, guys. So I can see Ian from Wisconsin. Let me know where you are chatting from. I always love to learn where everyone is tuning in from. I can see Mia, Lessa. Again, thank you so much, guys, for joining me on this Monday morning. Let's go back into Photoshop and learning more amazing techniques here. So as I said, we're gonna use this space. This is the area in which we're gonna place our advert that we're gonna mock up into our magazine. So all I have to do is to press Command A to select the entire area, Command C to copy these the pixels that are into this area, and Command Z to undo the crop and go back into our magazine photo. Now we're gonna press Command V to paste our area that we selected before. And remember, this is very important. We need to create a smart object right away as soon as we paste it. So in order to create a smart object, all you have to do is click on the layer, press Control and click into Convert to a smart object. And I'm gonna rename the layer as Advert here. Just as a little guide that shows us that that's where we're gonna place our advert. Now, because we wanna keep the perspective of the image and also the flattened aspect, which is distorted, we wanna make sure that we do create the smart object before we start to distort our area and we match it to the flattened object. So every time that we're gonna place in a new advert, it's gonna be laid again into our flat magazine. But let's move forward. So I'm gonna press Command T in order to distort this image, and I'm just gonna do so by clicking Command T and then Alt Command in order to move my corner. And that's the reason why we created those guides here. I'm just gonna hold this corner and then move them back into our corner of the magazine. Sometimes can be useful as well to put down a little bit to the opacity in order to make sure that we see the layer below. We can do also a little bit more of zooming just to make sure that our corner are actually the one that we selected here. And don't worry if the area doesn't cover exactly the magazine area. We're gonna be able to jump into the warp tool and from there edit a little bit the edges to make sure that there is no white area showing, and at the same time we cover the entire area of the magazine here. But this looks like we did quite a good job with our crops. Once you are happy with our mask here laying over into our flattened image, we're just gonna hit return and we're gonna bring back our opacity to 100%. Now, all we're left to do is to double click into our smart object here and go into our library that we created for this challenge. And I'm gonna bring first the first advert here and making sure that it's centered by clicking and dragging. Again, if you see, I have those amazing guides, purple guides that help us to find the center of the image. If you do not see them, you can just go into view and make sure that you have your snap to guides on, and also that you have our guides turned on and smart guides turned on. So the guides are going to be the blue one that allow you to snap into a point, while the purple one that we saw before are our smart guides here that make sure they are checked in order to help us to guide us into our canvas, into our artboards. Now, once I have placed our artboard into the center, I'm going to click enter to accept the changes, and I'm going to do the same with the second artboard. The reason why I'm importing both artboard at the same time is because I'm going to transform them. As you can see, we have a little bit of a margin, so I'm going to stretch them a little bit in order and enlarge them in order to make sure that they fill the entire page. And we want to do that with both artboard. And I'm going to do so by selecting both layers and by holding shift or command while we click on them, and then press option and click and drag up one of these corner of the bounding box and hit return. Again, you want to select both layer and move them together, transform them together, because we want them to keep in the same dimension for both. Now I've got about like 4 minutes, so I really want to show you how to save those into a layer comp. If you've not worked with layer comp before, they allow us to view our documents based on certain data. The first one that we're going to use is by creating a new layer comp here with this little plus. If you do not see your layer comp, make sure to go into Window and Layer Comp. I'm going to press on the plus to create advert number 1. And as you can see, the property, the property that we're going to use is visibility, and press OK. And for the second one, we have to trigger off the visibility of the first layer and make sure that the other layer is selected, and go into plus to select the visibility of the second layer. And we're going to call this one advert 2. I'm going to press OK. Then I'm going to press Command Save to save this file, and we can jump back in our magazine. Here it is our mockup is starting to appear. First thing that we want to do is to go into multiply in order to make sure that we take all the shadows from the white page below. And then we're going to use our clipping mask to have some adjustment on our smart object. So I'm going to go into create new fill and adjustment layers. And the reason why the clipping mask is so important into a mockup is because, remember, when you print, the ink is going to soak in all the colors. So we really want to trigger down the saturation a little bit, because we want to really give a realistic effect to our mockup. But make sure to use a clipping mask, because we only want to affect our page. So we do so by placing our mouse in between the two layers and Alt Option. And as you can see, we have this little down pointing arrow here that allow us to apply the effect only to the layer below, which is our mask. And look what happened here. We have our advert. If we go into properties, in here where it says layer 1, we can click and show the other layer thanks to our layer composition that we created before. So advert 1 is the one that we are visualizing now. If you switch to advert 2, actually this was advert 2, I'm sorry, if we switch to advert 1, we see the other advert. So this allows you to trigger different states from our smart object and have our adjustment layer applied to all of the different options. So if you work with an art director, if you work with your client, you'll be able to show them option. And if you want to get rid of those guides, just because again, you're perhaps working with your art director or client and you just want to have a little bit more of a clean page, all you have to do is press Command semicolon and double click here on the hand tool in order to bring it back to full view. So today we learned this amazing technique. Again, if you want to refine it in your own time, there is plenty more to do. For example, you can use the warp tool. As you can see here, we have little areas of the side that are showing a little bit of the table, and you'll be able to fix that simply by pressing Command T in order to transform and click into this warp tool that will allow us to have this handle. Let's see on the chat. Will the one clipping mask work on both advertisement? Yes, that's the power of the clipping mask. The clipping mask is affecting the layer below. And because we used a layer comp, that shows different states of the layer below. Whatever is the state of the layer below, it is gonna take on the adjustment with the clipping mask. But let me show you. So as you can see here, we have the clipping mask applier to the layer below with the first advert. If I switch to the other advert, you still have the layer applied, as you can see. Let's see if there is another question. How do you get the little point with the down arrow? So in order to create a clipping mask and to get the point arrow, all I have to do is to Alt Option in between the two layers. So I'm gonna position my cursor in between the two layers and Alt Option. And in order to create the layer that is, in order to make a clipping mask that is affecting the layer below. Also to, if you do not want to use the layer as a clipping mask, all you have to do is to go back in between these two layers. And as you can see, we have the little down pointing arrow with a cross, with a little slash, and that allows us to release the clipping mask. So it's super easy. Let's see if we can actually zoom in order to show it better. So I position my cursor in between the layer, and what I do is to Alt Option to show the down pointing arrow, and then click to release it. Same thing. Just make sure that you, of course, if the symbol is simply with the down pointing arrow, we are applying a clipping mask. If there is a slash into the down pointing arrow, we are releasing the clipping mask. And remember, it will only affect the layer directly below. So let's zoom back out in order to see our warp tool. We have still perhaps 2 minutes. I wanted to show you how you can refine this mask to make sure that it looks super realistic. We're gonna press Command T to transform, making sure that we select the right layer, of course, and to make sure we bring back these layers, this clipping mask. So Command T with our smart object selected, which is the area of the mask, and then click here into this icon, which is our warp tool that allows us to have a little bit more transformation here. And all I'm gonna do is to click into these points and drag into the handle, as you can see, to make sure that we cover all the white area, but we do not take in area of the table next to us here. So I'm gonna do the same into this other corner. We can also add more points besides these points that are here into the corners. We can add more by clicking into this split, which allow us to create point within our smart object. And perhaps I'll add a little bit of a bump here because the page looks like it's folded. So I want to add a little bit more of a curvature just to make it a little bit more realistic. Now, once we create our mockup and we are happy with it, I'm gonna press V to go back into, so I'm gonna press return in order to accept these changes and go back into our move tool. Once we are happy with our mockup, something that we might wanna do in order to be able to use this photo as a mockup over and over again is to create a PSD template. We do so by going into File, Export, and Export As. And I'm gonna save this file first because you wanna make sure that you save this challenge number 5 in order to share it on Discord and then upload it into our Behance page. So I'm gonna click Export to make sure that we created this challenge 5 and click Export. You can also do so if you wish with your other layer comp. Otherwise, in order to create a Photoshop template, all you have to do is click Shift Command Save and save on your computer, and make sure that you add a little T under your PSD and press Save and press OK. And you can see you're gonna have a new file here called magazine PSDT. I'm gonna close our current file right now and double click on the PSDT in order to open a new layer. As you see, it comes as untitled. You're gonna be able to create infinite template from here because every time that you click on a template, it's gonna open a new file that you gonna be able to edit independently from the original file. I can see it's unfortunately time to say goodbye. Thank you so much for choosing for tuning in today. I was just reading the question real quick. Mia, why do I choose a PSD? I choose the PSDT. I added a T in order to create a template. But if you have more questions, I'm gonna jump into Discord. So make sure to go into Discord, and I'll be there to answer all your questions and give you feedback on your work. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Bye, guys. Have a happy Monday.